What if I told you that a man once became rich within 24 hours, not by luck, not by inheritance, not by some miracle of chance, but by the law of definiteness? You would say it is impossible. You would say no man rises that fast, but you would be wrong, because I saw it happen. There was once a young preacher named Frank W. Gonzalez, a man with a dream so vast it seemed foolish to the world. He wanted to build a college where young men and women could learn how to think, not what to think. But he had no money, none. His church was small, his congregation poor, his influence limited. For years he wished for $1 million, and for years nothing happened. Then one night, after long defeat and disappointment, he made a decision. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision. He said to himself, "I will get that $1 million within a week." He stopped daydreaming and began thinking with fire. He wrote his sermon for the next morning and titled it, "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million." The next day he walked into his pulpit, a changed man. He spoke with a burning conviction that shook every soul in the room. He talked as though the money were already in his hands. He described his dream with such certainty that the walls themselves seemed to listen. And within 24 hours, a man who had sat quietly in that service, Philip D. Armour, sent for him. Armour said, "I believe you can do what you said you would. Here is your $1 million." In a single day, Frank W. Gonzalez crossed the line between wishing and commanding, between poverty and wealth, between indecision and definiteness of purpose. The school he built still stands today, the Armour Institute of Technology. It is proof in brick and stone that the law works. Now listen to me carefully. The difference between the man who hopes for riches and the man who commands them is this: decision. Gonzalez didn't say someday. He said now. He didn't wait for opportunity. He created it by the force of his definiteness. You say you want to be rich, but how badly? Badly enough to decide that you will be? Badly enough to act today as if your fortune must be secured before the sun sets again? That is the test of faith. To move as though your goal were already achieved, to speak as though you cannot fail, to act as though the world has no choice but to yield to your determination. The law that brought $1 million to Gonzalez in 24 hours has never been repealed. It still answers to those who obey its conditions. It demands definite purpose. It requires faith unshaken by doubt. It rewards decision followed by action. Do not sit there and think this story belongs to another man or another century. It belongs to you. Every man who listens to this with faith holds the same power within his own mind. You have 24 hours to decide who you are, one who wishes or one who commands. Because the truth is this: when a man acts as though he has only one day left to fulfill his purpose, the world rushes to assist him. The hours stretch, ideas appear, doors open, help arrives. The mind, once definite, becomes magnetic. So I say to you, act as if you have 24 hours to become rich. Think, speak, move, and work with that urgency, that faith, that definiteness. And when you do, you will discover what Frank W. Gonzalez discovered: that wealth does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who decide. Part 1. The law of immediate decision. Every man lives beneath two clocks. One measures the passing of hours, the other the passing of opportunities. The first belongs to time. The second belongs to destiny. Most men watch the first and ignore the second. They guard minutes, yet they waste decisions, and so their lives slip quietly into mediocrity while they wait for a better moment that never comes. I tell you now, with all the force of truth I have gathered from a lifetime of observation, the man who delays decision is already defeated. Every dream you possess, every opportunity you pray for, is waiting upon one command from you to decide. Life will not wait for your comfort. Infinite intelligence cannot serve an undecided mind. Decision is not made by the intellect alone, it is made by the whole of one's being. A man decides when he no longer debates with his fear, when his heart and mind unite in one burning command, I will. The moment that command is uttered in faith, forces beyond calculation begin to move. What seems coincidence is law in motion. Consider the young preacher, Frank W. Gonzalez. For years he wished, prayed, and begged for the means to build his dream, but wishing is the pastime of the idle. One night he grew weary of the waiting. He made a decision, not to hope, but to act as though he already possessed what he desired. Within 24 hours, the $1 million appeared. The law had been waiting for his decision to move. How many men spend their lives saying, someday, they will be rich someday, they will begin their business someday, they will change their habits someday? Yet that someday is the graveyard of all great intentions. No man ever became powerful on tomorrow. All power resides in now. The man who decides now compresses decades into hours. Andrew Carnegie once said to me, the man who makes a decision promptly and carries it out is worth 100 who cannot. He built his fortune on that principle. He would listen briefly, consider swiftly, and act firmly. He knew that hesitation confuses the mind, and confusion invites failure. Once decided, he would move mountains to fulfill it. The habit of indecision is the habit of poverty. It eats away at confidence until even small choices seem impossible. The man who cannot decide how to spend an hour will never decide how to spend a fortune. Every hesitation weakens the will. Every firm decision strengthens it. Decision, like muscle, grows by use. I have learned this law: when you delay a right decision, you give fear the power to speak. Fear multiplies in silence. But the man who acts quickly silences fear before it takes root. Decision is the voice of faith. Hesitation is the whisper of doubt. You must understand that time itself changes when you decide. An undecided man moves slowly, weighted by confusion. The decided man walks with lightning in his step. Opportunities appear because opportunity respects momentum. Fortune follows speed. Every empire, invention, and achievement was born of a swift and definite decision. The illusion of time deceives the weak. They say, there will be another chance. But there is no other chance, only the one before you. Infinite intelligence gives you this moment as the sum of your life. All else is memory or imagination. The man who learns to act now lives eternally, for he commands every second to serve his purpose. You ask how a single decision can make a man rich in 24 hours. I tell you, it is not the passing of hours that matters, but the quickening of the mind. A man who decides with absolute definiteness changes the rhythm of his soul. Thought becomes magnetized. Ideas, people, and resources rush toward him as though summoned by law. I have seen this law work in every field. Henry Ford, when told that his dream of a motor for the masses was folly, decided that he would build it anyway. He did not argue, nor did he hesitate. He built. When his engineers said his V8 design was impossible, he said simply, produce it. Months passed, and they returned defeated. Ford repeated, produce it. At last, they succeeded. That one decision created an industry. The world bends to the will of those who act without doubt. It resists the wavering. It obeys the decided. Decision carries a vibration that others feel. When you decide firmly, even the uncertain begin to follow your lead. They see in you the reflection of authority, and they call it luck. But luck is merely the name the timid give to decisiveness. Decision is the spark that ignites faith. Until you decide, faith lies dormant. Infinite intelligence responds not to words but to conviction. A prayer without decision is noise. A decision without faith is arrogance. But when decision and faith unite, they form a command to which the universe must respond. You may say, but I am not ready. The truth is, readiness is born of action, not thought. A man becomes ready by beginning. The path reveals itself to those who start walking. The one who waits for certainty dies waiting. Every man has within him two voices, the voice of courage, which says now, and the voice of fear, which says later. The one you obey determines your fate. Obey courage, and doors open. Obey fear, and life becomes a corridor of regrets. Decision is not reckless haste. It is clarity in motion. It is the calm recognition that to delay is to lose. A man of decision moves with quiet speed because he knows that every delay increases the price of opportunity. Those who act slowly pay with time. Those who act swiftly buy freedom. I once observed a businessman who failed for 10 years because he could not decide between two ventures. Each year he changed his mind. Each year he began anew. When I asked why, he said, "I fear choosing wrong." I told him, "Your fear of choosing is your choice. You have decided to fail." Hesitation paralyzes the connection between mind and action. It confuses the subconscious, leaving it without command. Infinite intelligence cannot serve two masters, one that says "I will" and one that says "I might." Choose one, and the power returns. There is a mental chemistry in immediacy. The moment a man resolves with conviction, a new current begins to move through his nervous system, his tone, his step. He radiates energy. People feel it without understanding it. They call him driven, magnetic, fortunate. But what they feel is the electricity of a mind unified with its purpose. If you could see the invisible forces around a man of decision, you would behold a whirlwind of motion, thoughts rushing to him, opportunities gravitating toward him, circumstances rearranging themselves to his favor. Nature loves speed. She rewards movement. Think of this. Hesitation confuses infinite intelligence. The universe is designed to obey command, not speculation. When you hesitate, you cancel your own order. You send mixed messages to life itself. It cannot deliver what you have not confirmed. To test this truth, I give you this exercise. Choose one goal that stirs your heart. Write it upon a page. Then beneath it, write these words: "I will act today as though I must achieve it before nightfall." Do not question how. Do not debate the method. Act with all your might toward its fulfillment and observe how swiftly life responds. You will find that even in small matters, decision multiplies time. One day of definite effort achieves what a week of indecision cannot. You will begin to sense that your hours stretch, your energy deepens, and your confidence grows. The reason is simple. The mind unified in purpose operates with tenfold efficiency. Every successful man I have known lived by this secret. He acted with urgency, not because time was short, but because his faith was great. To him, hesitation was disobedience to law. Decision was reverence for it. Repeat this to yourself often. I decide now. Action obeys my thought. Delay is defeat. These words are not mere affirmations. They are instructions to your subconscious mind. Speak them with feeling, and your inner faculties will organize around them. When you adopt the mindset of 24-hour wealth, you begin to live differently. You think, speak, and move as if your purpose must be completed before the sun sets. You waste no word, no gesture, no thought. You become exacting in your focus. Every breath becomes purposeful, every act deliberate. That intensity draws opportunity as fire draws air. When others see you, they will sense something different. They will say, "He moves as if guided." They will not understand that you have learned the law that commands motion from life itself, the law of immediate decision. Understand this truth. Opportunity does not knock softly, it passes quickly. It leaves no forwarding address. Once gone, it may never return. The man who acts now lives in harmony with life's rhythm. The man who waits lives out of tune and wonders why the music of success never plays for him. I tell you, decision is not only the beginning of wealth, it is wealth itself in its first form. The man who decides is already rich, for he owns his mind. Every fortune ever built began as one man saying, "I will." You have within you the same power that moved Gonzales to action. the same force that drove Ford and Carnegie and Edison to mastery. But you must awaken it by decision. Begin now. Do not wait for courage. Act and courage will come. You have 24 hours, not tomorrow, not next week. Now, act as though every delay were the loss of a kingdom. Write your aim. Speak your decision aloud. Move as if your entire destiny depended upon this day, for it does. The man who decides with faith compresses years into moments. He lives with a clarity that others mistake for magic. But it is not magic, it is obedience to law. Now I leave you with this command. You have 24 hours. Begin as though every delay were the loss of a kingdom. Decide now, act now, and the universe will decide in your favor. Part 2. Think with fire. There are men who think, and there are men who think with fire. The first merely arrange ideas as one might shuffle cold stones. The second set those stones ablaze until they glow, and from their heat comes creation. It is not thought alone that builds fortunes. It is thought charged with emotion, thought made alive through feeling, thought burning with conviction. When Frank Gonzalez decided to have his $1 million, something within him caught flame. His thought had life. It was no longer an idea. It was an order to the universe. He did not speak of it timidly. He spoke as a man possessed by certainty. That heat of belief traveled through his words, entered the minds of others, and lit them as torches. Within 24 hours, one of those flames became his answer. I have studied thousands of successful men, and I have found this same electricity in all of them. They do not think coldly about their desires. They think with heat, with fire, with purpose so intense that even their enemies feel it. It is that invisible fire that attracts opportunity, commands cooperation, and burns through resistance. Desire is the match. Faith is the flame. Action is the fuel. Together they form the fire of creation. Without heat, a thought remains a corpse, a lifeless pattern of words. But once it is vitalized by feeling, it becomes a living organism, a power capable of reshaping matter itself. When I say think with fire, I do not mean frenzy or impatience. I mean concentration infused with emotion. The mind must feel what it thinks. It must marry the idea with belief so deeply that the subconscious accepts it as fact. Thought without feeling is a letter never sent. It reaches no one, not even yourself. I once stood beside Thomas Edison as he worked through the night, covered in soot, surrounded by broken glass and failed experiments. His eyes burned with intensity. I asked him how he endured such endless trial. He smiled and said, "Because the light already exists in my mind." That is faith in action. He thought with fire long before the world saw the bulb glow. Edison's faith was not superstition. It was electricity of the soul. It was the same energy that propels every achievement. When you think with belief so strong that you can see, feel, and taste the reality of your vision, infinite intelligence begins to move through you. You become a conductor of a divine current. Every great creation begins as a vibration in the mind. The stronger the vibration, the faster it materializes. Weak thought produces slow results. Vitalized thought, alive with emotion, produces rapid ones. That is why the man who believes intensely accomplishes in a year what others cannot in decades. He shortens time by increasing power. The subconscious mind is the furnace in which this power is generated. It cannot reason, it obeys emotion. Whatever idea you charge with feeling, it accepts as truth. If that feeling is fear, it creates failure. If that feeling is faith, it creates success. The law is impartial. It multiplies whatever you feed it. When I wrote Think and Grow Rich, I said, faith is the only known antidote for failure. But faith must be felt, not recited. You cannot whisper faith as you would a formula. You must roar it in silence until every atom of your being vibrates with certainty. Henry Ford once told me that his greatest tool was enthusiasm. He said, No machine ever moved until I moved men by enthusiasm. His mind radiated such belief that others caught it like contagion. That is the fire I speak of, the invisible contagion of certainty. A man who thinks with fire speaks with conviction, walks with assurance, and commands attention without raising his voice. He is magnetic because his inner current is strong. People feel drawn to him because his energy gives them courage. They see in him what they secretly desire to be: alive, definite, fearless. You may have noticed this in meetings or conversations. When a man speaks without belief, his words fall flat. When he speaks with conviction, even the hesitant nod in agreement. Words are not power, the feeling behind them is. The emotion carries the idea into the hearts of others. You must therefore cultivate emotion as deliberately as you cultivate thought. Do not fear feeling. The timid believe emotion to be weakness, yet it is the greatest force in the world. It moves armies, builds nations, and raises fortunes. Thought directs it. Faith ignites it. How does one awaken this fire? Begin by remembering what stirred you once, your ambitions, your dreams, before fear told you they were impossible. Recall the hunger you felt when you desired something with your whole being. Feel that again, deliberately. Write your definite purpose on paper, then read it aloud with emotion. See it, believe it, declare it as done. At first, your words may feel hollow, but if you persist, the tone of conviction will appear. Emotion is built through repetition. Each time you repeat your purpose with feeling, you deepen the groove of belief in your subconscious mind. Soon, that belief will begin to act on its own. It will inspire action, summon opportunity, and reject all thoughts of defeat. This is why repetition is sacred. It is not dull. It is creative. Every repetition of faith engraves the pattern deeper into the mind until it becomes automatic. The weak tire of repetition. The wise use it to shape destiny. The strongest men are those who repeat one great idea until it consumes them. Desire without emotion is noise. Desire with emotion is command. One man says, "I wish to be rich," and nothing happens. Another says, "I will be rich," and the world rearranges itself around him. The difference is the emotional intensity behind the words. The universe obeys tone, not volume. There is an unseen chemistry in enthusiasm. It sharpens the intellect, strengthens the body, and charges the aura of the spirit. A man filled with enthusiasm can work twice as long, think twice as clearly, and influence twice as many people. His energy multiplies itself through every word and gesture. When you find your purpose, give it heat. Speak of it with passion. Work for it with devotion. Think of it as a lover thinks of his beloved, unceasingly with joy and reverence. Let it occupy your mind until it fills your being. Then wealth will come as the shadow follows the flame. Faith without fire is like a lamp without oil. It may be well built, but it will not shine. The oil is emotion, the wick is thought, and the flame is action. Keep your lamp filled and burning. Let no criticism extinguish it. Let no failure cool it. Guard your flame as you would your life, for it is the light that guides all achievement. I have known men who failed because they thought without warmth. Their plans were sound, their logic flawless, but their spirit was cold. They inspired no confidence, not even in themselves. The world sensed their uncertainty and withheld its cooperation. The man who thinks without fire builds castles of ice. They glitter briefly, then melt in the sun. Do not be afraid to burn brightly. The timid will call you intense. The average will call you obsessed. Let them. The fire that makes you different is the fire that makes you powerful. All men who have changed the world have been called extreme by those who could not ignite themselves. Every morning before the world claims your attention, close your eyes and rekindle your flame. Say to yourself, "My thoughts are living forces. Faith gives life to my ideas. I think with fire. Feel the truth of these words until they vibrate through you. Let that vibration guide your every act. As you practice this, others will notice the change. Your eyes will brighten. Your voice will deepen. Your presence will command attention. People will say, "He has something about him." They will not know that what you have is control of the inner fire. Thought is the seed of wealth, but emotion is the sunlight that causes it to grow. Without heat, even the best soil remains barren. The man who thinks with fire accelerates his harvest. He compresses time because his energy is multiplied. There will be days when your enthusiasm wanes. That is natural. Fire requires tending. Return then to the source, your purpose. Read it aloud. Visualize it anew. Remind yourself that emotion is the servant of will. You are the keeper of the flame, not its victim. I have seen the transformation many times. A man comes to me dull, weary, defeated. He speaks of wanting success but shows no spark in his eye. I teach him to think with feeling, to affirm his purpose with energy, to move his body as though he already possessed the strength he seeks. Within weeks, his life changes. Why? Because the fire once dormant has been awakened. Infinite intelligence responds most swiftly to enthusiasm. It is the vibration nearest to the creative frequency of the universe. When your mind glows with belief, you harmonize with the divine rhythm of growth. You cease to struggle. You begin to attract. This is the secret of magnetism. Men who think with fire draw to themselves other burning minds. Cooperation follows inspiration. Just as a flame draws air, a burning idea draws resources. The more intense your conviction, the stronger the magnetic field around you. Think of a great leader, Lincoln, for example. His speeches were not ornate. They were simple, but they were filled with feeling. His quiet passion moved nations. Or consider Carnegie, whose belief in human potential ignited thousands of workers to labor with pride. These men were not just thinkers. They were transmitters of emotional power. Let me tell you a truth that may change how you approach every thought. Cold logic never convinces the subconscious mind. It hears only emotion. It is blind to argument, but sensitive to feeling. Therefore, whatever you wish to impress upon it must be clothed in emotion. Speak your affirmations with warmth, not routine. Feel the truth before you utter it. Do not confuse this with mere excitement. Excitement flickers. Fire endures. Excitement depends on circumstances. Fire depends on conviction. One burns briefly, the other for a lifetime. Your task is not to chase excitement, but to build steady heat, a controlled blaze of certainty. If you would master this, remember that repetition and emotion are your tools. Repeat your purpose daily until you feel it. Each repetition adds fuel to the flame. Each feeling raises the temperature of belief. When belief becomes white-hot, manifestation follows inevitably. Many men stop short because they grow weary before the fire forms. They complain, "I have repeated my affirmation for a week and nothing has changed." A week. Creation does not obey impatience. You must persist until the fire burns by itself. Once ignited, it will continue without effort. You will know it has awakened when your thoughts carry an undertone of power, when your words move others to act, when obstacles seem to melt before you. That is the sign of the vitalized mind. It commands reality because it vibrates with the frequency of certainty. If you would become rich in a day, kindle your fire today. Think with such intensity that even the air around you feels it. Let your purpose be so definite, your faith so burning, that time itself bends before your will. For the man who thinks with fire does not need years, he needs moments. 1 hour of vitalized thought is worth 1,000 hours of idle dreaming. When your mind burns with conviction, wealth comes not as pursuit but as consequence. Now say within yourself, "My thoughts are living forces. Faith gives life to my ideas. I think with fire. My mind is the lamp of creation and my purpose is its flame." Hold this thought until you feel its heat. Act upon it before the day ends. For the law that grants riches to the man of fire is ready to serve you the instant you obey it. Part 3. The silent hand behind wealth. There is a law that governs every fortune ever built, yet few men have ever stopped to see it at work. I call it the silent hand behind wealth. It is unseen, unheard, but it moves through every honest success as surely as the current moves through the wire. It is not luck, nor chance, nor favoritism. It is law, exact and impartial, responding to faith and definiteness as sound responds to vibration. I have walked among the powerful and among the penniless, and I tell you the difference between them is not circumstance but consciousness. The rich man lives in harmony with this silent hand. He believes before he sees, acts before he proves, and trusts that what he commands in faith will appear in substance. The poor man doubts, delays, and waits for proof before belief, and so proof never comes. The story of Frank Gonzalez is not a miracle. It is the natural operation of this law. When he declared, "I will have that $1 million within a week," the unseen intelligence of life recognized a master. It said, "Here is a man who knows what he wants and believes it already his." And so it obeyed him. For the universe always obeys conviction. Faith is the great conductor between the visible and invisible. It is mental obedience to law, the recognition that all things begin in the mind and must first exist there before they can take form. The man who understands this law does not pray to be given wealth. He prays to be made equal to it in mind. He aligns his thought with the rhythm of abundance, and abundance begins to flow through him as water flows through an open channel. Infinite intelligence is not distant. It is within you. It is the quiet order behind every sunrise, the precision of every heartbeat, the balance of every planet. This intelligence governs all life, and it is never idle. It awaits your cooperation, your definiteness, your faith. It will not move for your doubt, nor bend for your indecision, but the moment you think clearly, believe deeply, and act firmly, it moves heaven and earth to fulfill your command. Think of it as a great banker of creation, lending power to those whose faith is collateral. The man who doubts is a poor applicant. He offers no security of belief. The man who believes as Gonzalez believed, who risks all upon his conviction, is granted limitless credit. The universe invests in men of faith. I have seen this law operating in the lives of the great industrialists. Charles M. Schwab, for instance, once faced a task that would have crushed the courage of ordinary men. He was asked to unite a group of steel companies under one leadership to raise millions in capital and to command thousands of workers. But Schwab believed that the invisible hand was already arranging the details. He walked into those meetings with the calm of one who knew the outcome before the first word was spoken. And what he believed came to pass. Men called it genius. I call it mental obedience to law. Schwab trusted the unseen order because he had trained his mind to work in harmony with it. His faith radiated authority. Others caught it like flame. When faith burns within one man, it can ignite the hearts of 10,000. The power that creates worlds is not mysterious. It is thought, made definite by purpose, and given life through faith. When your thought harmonizes with the silent order of abundance, that power flows through you naturally. But when you think in contradiction, when you say one thing, feel another, and do nothing, you break the circuit, and no power can pass through. You must learn to trust the unseen as firmly as the seen. You trust electricity, though you cannot hold it. You trust gravity, though you cannot see it. Why then do you doubt the greater law that governs thought itself? The same intelligence that turns the planets in their courses waits for your cooperation. When you think with clarity and belief, you are not asking for a miracle. You are aligning with the nature of things. Doubt is spiritual bankruptcy. It is the refusal to recognize abundance. Every time you doubt your purpose, you shut the door to opportunity. You tell infinite intelligence, "Do not bother with me, I do not believe your law." But when you affirm your faith, you open the treasury of life. Faith is the key to that vault. Once, in a time of personal difficulty, when my plans seemed to fail and my resources were gone, I stood before a mirror and said aloud, "You are not defeated. Infinite intelligence cannot fail. Therefore, I cannot fail." I repeated it until I believed it. The next day, opportunity came from an unexpected source. Was it chance? No, it was law obeyed. Men often ask, "How can I believe before I see?" I answer, you have done so all your life. Every harvest begins with unseen faith. The farmer plants a seed he cannot see grow. He does not dig it up each morning to check its progress. He knows the law will not deceive him. Faith is the same. You plant your thought in the soil of infinite intelligence, water it with belief, and protect it from the weeds of doubt. In due time, it will bear fruit. The greatest minds have always trusted this unseen order. Edison believed in an idea before the light appeared. Ford believed in mobility before the automobile existed. Carnegie believed in production before he had a furnace. They all worked with the invisible first and the visible last. They were not dreamers. They were cooperators with law. Faith is more than belief. It is mental discipline. It is the habit of seeing cause where others see chance. It is the ability to look at a closed door and know another stands open. It is the calm confidence that whatever happens is working for your ultimate benefit. Infinite intelligence rewards definiteness. The vague prayer receives vague answers. The definite command spoken with faith receives definite results. When you know exactly what you want and speak of it as though it were already yours, you are declaring your cooperation with the creative law. Do not mistake this for arrogance. True faith is humble. It recognizes that power does not originate in man, but flows through him. The man of faith does not boast, he obeys. He knows that by aligning his thought with divine law, he becomes an instrument of it. There is a spiritual chemistry that unites thought and faith. When the two blend perfectly, they form a substance of power, real, measurable, and irresistible. This power moves unseen through human affairs, arranging meetings, guiding decisions, and opening doors. I have seen it bring fortunes to the poor, ideas to the uninspired, and courage to the brokenhearted. I once asked Henry Ford how he maintained confidence when others mocked his ideas. He said, "I knew something they did not." That thought guided by faith never fails. He told me that when his factories faced ruin, he would stand alone at night among the machines and speak to them as though they were alive. "You are my servants," he said. "You will produce wealth." Infinite intelligence guides you. His faith turned machinery into miracles. You may wonder, is this law reserved for great men? Number. It is available to every man who believes. Infinite intelligence is not partial. It serves anyone who serves it through definiteness of purpose. The beggar may rise and the rich man may fall, depending solely on their alignment with law. To live in harmony with the silent hand, you must practice mental obedience. When fear whispers, answer with faith. When doubt arises, repeat your purpose aloud until conviction returns. You cannot serve two masters. You must decide which voice you obey. The unseen world is alive with forces eager to assist you. Thoughts are messengers. They travel swiftly to those who can help you, and they attract back what you seek. A definite thought charged with belief is like a letter sealed and addressed. It will reach its destination. A doubtful thought is an unposted note. It never leaves your desk. You may test this law in small matters. When you desire something simple, a meeting, an opportunity, a solution, declare it as done. Picture it vividly. Give thanks as though it were already yours, and watch what follows. Each success will strengthen your faith until it becomes automatic. Faith grows by exercise. Use it daily. Speak your purpose aloud, write it clearly, act upon it immediately. Each act of belief deepens the channel through which infinite intelligence can flow. Soon, faith becomes your natural state. doubt becomes impossible. When others see this in you, they will feel something they cannot explain. They will say, "He has luck." But luck is simply faith visible. They will call you confident, but it is not confidence. It is cooperation with law. You will seem calm when others panic, serene when others doubt, because you have placed your trust in something greater than yourself. This is how the world perceives the man of faith. His presence steadies others. His eyes are clear, his voice sure. He seems to carry a hidden certainty that no misfortune can shake. Men seek his counsel because he radiates order in a world of confusion. That is what it means to be rich in spirit before you are rich in gold. There is no accident in success. The law of cause and effect governs all. Faith is the cause, wealth is the effect. When you align with the silent order, you have already achieved the invisible half of success. The visible half will follow by natural law. I have been asked whether infinite intelligence ever fails. I answer, it cannot fail, but man can interrupt it through fear, doubt, or contradiction. The law is perfect. Only its instruments falter. Your duty is to remove interference, to keep your mind clear, your faith firm, your purpose definite. Make it your daily practice to visualize your fortune, not as a dream, but as a reality already forming. Feel it in your hands. See it used for good. This mental rehearsal instructs the subconscious to prepare conditions for its fulfillment. Infinite intelligence will handle the details. You need only remain faithful to the vision. Repeat these affirmations until they become the rhythm of your thought. I believe before I see. Infinite intelligence rewards my definiteness. The unseen serves me as I serve it. Doubt is defeat. Faith is power. Speak them each morning with gratitude and each night with peace. Understand this deeply. Wealth is not the reward of labor alone, but of mental harmony with law. Millions work harder than they must because they work without faith. They dig in darkness, doubting the seed they planted. The man who believes digs once, plants once, and reaps abundantly. If you align with the silent hand, you need not force events. You will sense what to do, when to move, when to wait. Intuition will replace anxiety. Guidance will replace confusion. Life itself will become cooperative rather than combative. When Frank Gonzalez decided upon his $1 million, he did not beg heaven for help. He declared his purpose as law. He aligned himself with infinite intelligence by acting as though the thing were already done. Within 24 hours, that intelligence responded. You can do the same. So I leave you with this truth. When you act in harmony with law, even chance becomes your servant. Nothing is accidental to the man who believes. Every circumstance bends to him. Every obstacle teaches him. Every event advances him. He no longer wonders how. He simply decides, believes, and moves, knowing that the silent hand has already gone before him. And when you reach that state of calm conviction, you will find that the same law which brought wealth to Gonzalez, power to Schwab, and peace to Carnegie is waiting still to serve you. Part 4, the law of motion. Thought is the seed of creation, but without motion it remains buried in the soil of the mind. You may think grandly, plan wisely, dream beautifully, but until you move, the dream is still a ghost. I have seen men die with perfect plans unwritten, ideas untested, and desires unfulfilled, simply because they did not act. Thought alone is potential. Action alone is power. The law of motion is simple. The universe moves only for the man who moves first. Life responds to rhythm, not stillness. Infinite intelligence aids momentum, not hesitation. When a man acts, even imperfectly, he calls forth invisible assistance. When he waits, the current of life passes him by and helps another. You cannot steer a motionless ship. You cannot direct a windless sail. The world cannot guide the man who stands still. I tell you this plainly. Inaction is not safety. It is slow ruin. The only safe man is the one who moves. Every great achievement has been born of action taken when others hesitated. The greatest thinkers were doers, not dreamers. I once asked Thomas Edison how he endured thousands of failures before perfecting his inventions. He laughed and said, "Failures? I call them experiments. That was the spirit of motion." He did not wait for certainty. He acted his way into discovery. A man cannot wait until he knows every detail before beginning. If he does, he will never begin. I have never known an opportunity that announced itself in full daylight. Opportunity hides behind motion. It reveals itself only to those who start walking toward it. The law of motion rewards the brave, the quick, the willing. Action is faith made visible. It is prayer expressed through hands and feet. To think and never act is to insult infinite intelligence. It is to declare, "I do not trust the law I profess to believe." When you move upon an idea, you say to the universe, "I have faith in its truth." The universe answers, "Then I will make it so." The man who waits for everything to be perfect is waiting for life itself to stop moving. There is no perfection in preparation. There is only improvement through motion. Action refines itself. You learn the right way by walking through the wrong ones. The man who acts may stumble, but he advances. The man who waits neither stumbles nor moves. Henry Ford was once asked why he launched new ventures without complete assurance of success. He replied, "Because action brings information." He understood that motion itself reveals the path. The first step makes the second visible. The timid want to see the whole road before they start, but the bold know that roads appear under their feet. Faith without motion dies in the dark. It suffocates in the prison of thought. But once expressed through action, it becomes light. The very act of beginning sends a signal to infinite intelligence. I am ready. That signal summons new ideas, new energy, new allies. Nothing moves until you do. I have watched this truth unfold in my own life. Many years ago, when I struggled to publish my first major work, I waited too long for the right conditions. More money, more support, more certainty. Then one night, I realized that the only thing missing was action. The next morning, I began writing, uncertain but determined. That single motion brought me everything I had been waiting for. Letters arrived, resources appeared, doors opened. Action was the key that turned thought into power. A man who acts without delay lives twice as long in achievement as the man who delays. Why? Because hesitation wastes hours, and hours become years. The man of action compresses time. His 1 year of steady effort equals 10 years of another's waiting. He reaches success sooner, not because he is lucky, but because he obeys the law of motion. Infinite intelligence is not a beggar's servant. It is a creator's ally. It does not reward requests. It rewards movement. When you act, it moves with you. The invisible forces of life flow through motion like current through wire. The moment you stop, the current stops. You must therefore live in continual motion toward your purpose. Do not mistake rest for stagnation. Rest is motion in rhythm. A river that pauses to deepen itself flows stronger when it resumes. So too must you learn the balance between purposeful motion and conscious renewal. But never permit delay to disguise itself as rest. Rest regenerates, delay decays. I once met a salesman who doubled his income simply by obeying one rule: act on every idea within 24 hours. If he thought of a potential client, he called. If he conceived a plan, he wrote it. If an opportunity arose, he seized it. His competitors laughed at his urgency until they began losing business to him. Motion gave him mastery. You may believe that waiting for a perfect moment is wisdom. I tell you, it is the most costly form of ignorance. No perfect moment will come. Perfection arrives only after imperfection has moved. Life improves in transit. Begin where you are, with what you have, and life will supply the rest. There is spiritual courage in motion. When you move despite fear, you teach your subconscious that courage is stronger than doubt. Each act of motion builds a habit of strength. Fear thrives in stillness but starves in activity. The mind cannot fear what it is busy mastering. Action is the rhythm of faith. Faith is the cause. Motion is the effect. Every law of nature demonstrates it. The planets move in obedience to purpose. The seasons move in cycles of growth and renewal. The waves move ceaselessly upon the shore. All of nature is proof that power is born of perpetual motion. Why then should man believe he is exempt? When a man refuses to act, he separates himself from the rhythm of life. He becomes stagnant water, breeding doubt and decay. But when he moves, he joins the eternal stream of creation. He becomes part of the flow that builds and renews worlds. Action, properly directed, multiplies intelligence. When you begin a task, the mind awakens new faculties. Ideas you could not see before suddenly appear. Forces you could not command begin to serve you. The act of doing clears the fog of hesitation and reveals the next step. Edison once told me, "Most men fail not because they cannot think, but because they cannot begin." He meant that thought without action paralyzes itself. The mind becomes too clever for its own progress. It builds arguments where it should build bridges. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. Infinite intelligence never reveals the entire plan to any man at once. It gives only one step, then waits for obedience. If you refuse to take it, no second step will appear. But when you act, the next becomes visible, then the next, until the entire path stands clear behind you. That is how wealth is built. Not through vast leaps, but through faithful motion, step after step, hour after hour, decision after decision. Each act gathers strength. Each motion creates momentum. Each day builds upon the last until the results seem miraculous to those who stood still. The man of motion is never at the mercy of circumstances because he is always ahead of them. He creates change before change reaches him. Life rewards him with apparent luck, yet luck is merely the harmony between motion and timing. The man who moves is ready when opportunity arrives. The man who waits is not. I once met a young mechanic who wished to own a factory. He had neither money nor influence, but he had motion. Every night after his work, he studied machinery and improved his skills. Every morning, he sought new ideas. When an opening came to supervise a small plant, he took it without hesitation. Within 5 years, he owned the company. He told me, "I never stood still long enough for doubt to catch me." Motion also purifies purpose. When you begin to move toward a goal, you discover whether your desire is true or false. The unworthy aims fall away. The worthy grow stronger. Motion is the test of sincerity. The man who says he wants wealth but does not act lies to himself. The man who moves even in uncertainty proves his truth. You must not confuse activity with motion. Many are busy but not advancing. True motion is always directed toward a definite aim. The bee that flutters endlessly gathers no honey. The one that flies straight enriches the hive. Therefore, every act must serve your definite purpose. If it does not, it is not motion, it is drift. Procrastination is the graveyard of purpose. It buries dreams alive. It whispers, "Tomorrow will be easier," but tomorrow brings new excuses. The cure is simple. Act while the thought is fresh. Every minute of delay dulls the blade of intent. Act while the desire is warm. Strike while the iron glows. Action has a spiritual fragrance. You can feel it around men who move with confidence. It attracts followers, opportunities, even miracles. The undecided repel such blessings. They reek of hesitation. The active radiate conviction. Life loves those who move. You may wonder why this law seems to favor speed. It is because motion multiplies awareness. When you act, you think more clearly, decide more quickly, and learn more deeply. The man who moves fast does not make more mistakes. He corrects them sooner. The world belongs to those who adapt in motion. Edison's laboratories were full of half-finished models. Yet each failure taught him something that theory never could. Experiment, he told me, is the school of motion. The greatest knowledge comes through the body as much as through the mind. Action educates more thoroughly than reflection alone. There is power in decisive movement. When you act swiftly, you prevent doubt from taking root. Doubt is a weed that grows only in idle soil. Keep your mind and hands busy with purpose, and there will be no room for fear to germinate. When you have acted, do not torment yourself with regret. Regret is wasted energy. The man of motion learns, adjusts, and continues. He understands that perfection is reached through correction, not through waiting. Each mistake refines his aim as fire refines gold. Say to yourself, I act while others wait. My movement commands opportunity. Action completes creation. These words are not poetry, they are principle. Speak them until they command your subconscious mind to keep you in motion. You will find that energy flows naturally, inspiration appears easily, and fatigue yields to purpose. The greatest tragedy is not that men fail, but that they never begin. The graveyards are full of ideas that never breathed, inventions that never saw light, fortunes that never left the mind of their maker. The world does not mourn such losses, but destiny does. For every man who refuses to act, there is a dream unborn, a wealth uncreated, a lesson unlearned. Do not fear criticism when you move. The idle will always mock the active. They will call your urgency reckless and your faith arrogance. But the laughter of the motionless is the music of the mediocre. The man who obeys the law of motion will soon find their laughter replaced by silence, and their silence by envy. When you begin to live by this law, you will feel a new vitality coursing through you. Your steps will be quicker, your mind clearer, your purpose stronger. You will no longer drag through days. You will command them. Each hour will become an instrument of progress. You will move with precision, and the world will move with you. I have seen men rise from obscurity to wealth in months simply because they moved when others watched. They acted upon a single idea and discovered within it 10 others. Motion reveals the next opportunity. Hesitation conceals it. When you act, life unfolds in front of you like a map illuminated by your own speed. Remember this truth. The world bows to the man who acts while others analyze. He may not always be right, but he is always advancing. The critics stand behind him, arguing over his steps while he reaches the summit. Motion is the great purifier of doubt, the destroyer of fear, the proof of faith. It is the divine command made visible. Move, and I will move with you. If you understand this, you need never fear failure again, for even defeat cannot stop a man who continues to move. So I say to you now, rise and act. Begin where you stand with what you have, for the law of motion waits for your obedience. The moment you start, the universe starts with you. Part 5, the trial of fire. There comes an hour in every man's progress when the winds turn against him, when the tools fail, when the hands grow weary, and the road stretches endless before his sight. It is then that life performs its truest test. The universe asks one question of every soul that dreams of greatness. Will you continue? Many begin with enthusiasm, few continue with endurance. The enthusiasm of a moment is common, the persistence of years is rare, yet it is persistence alone that proves a man worthy of success. For life, before it crowns you, must know that you can stand the fire without melting. I have studied this law in men of every calling, leaders, inventors, merchants, and thinkers, and I have found that success never comes without resistance. Nature demands payment for every triumph, and the coin she asks is persistence. Those who pay with endurance buy their freedom. Those who refuse remain slaves to failure. Persistence is more than stubbornness. It is intelligent faith, faith that continues working when reason says, stop. It is the quiet determination that endures when the noise of encouragement fades. Stubbornness clings to foolish pride. Persistence clings to purpose. I have seen men fail not because they lacked talent, but because they lacked patience. They wanted the harvest before the seed had broken soil. But the law of growth cannot be hurried. The same intelligence that governs the seasons governs success. First comes sowing, then waiting, then reaping. Persistence is the discipline of waiting without surrendering. I once heard Andrew Carnegie say, "The man who can wait and work at the same time will own the world." He knew that most men can do one or the other. They can work or they can wait, but few can do both. The world belongs to those who can continue when progress is invisible, when praise is absent, when doubt surrounds them like a fog. There is a story I often tell because it contains every truth of this principle. It is the story of R.U. Darby and his uncle, who went west during the gold rush. They discovered a vein of ore and worked it eagerly. But after a few weeks, the vein disappeared. Discouraged, they sold their equipment to a junk man and went home. That junk man, guided by an engineer's advice, drilled just 3 feet farther and struck one of the richest veins in history. Darby learned his lesson. He returned to the business world and became a great insurance salesman by following one rule: I will never quit 3 feet from gold again. He turned failure into wisdom because he discovered the secret of persistence. You too will face your 3 feet from gold moment. It may come when everything seems against you, when the applause of others fades and even your faith trembles. In that moment, you must remember, the test is not to destroy you, but to prove you. I call this the trial of fire. Every man who desires something great must pass through it. The fire burns away weakness, melts fear, and refines the soul. Gold cannot shine until it is purified, neither can man. Think of Abraham Lincoln. He failed in business, lost elections, faced ridicule, buried his children, and yet he endured. He persisted until destiny itself yielded. The same world that mocked him now teaches its children his name. That is the reward of persistence. It turns suffering into immortality. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before success smiled upon him. When asked how he endured so many defeats, he said, "I did not fail 10,000 times. I succeeded in discovering 10,000 ways that would not work." That is persistence in its purest form, the refusal to define defeat as failure. The great error of our age is the worship of speed. Men want instant results, overnight success, riches without labor. But wealth built quickly vanishes quickly. The slow builder lays deep foundations. His fortune stands unshaken by time. Persistence is that deep foundation. It is unseen, unglamorous, and unending, but it is the only sure ground beneath the house of success. You will find that persistence transforms character. It makes a man solid, dependable, respected. Others will begin to trust you because they see in your eyes the quiet strength of one who cannot be broken. Even your enemies will yield before such steadiness. They will realize that argument cannot move you, failure cannot stop you, and ridicule cannot reach you. Let me give you an image. Persistence is like the tide. It retreats only to gather force. Each wave that breaks against the shore may seem to fail, but every retreat builds strength for the next advance. In time, even the hardest rock yields to its rhythm. So does fortune yield to the man who keeps moving, quietly, steadily, unshaken. But persistence does not come naturally. It must be cultivated. It is born from desire, strengthened by faith, and guided by purpose. Without desire, you will lack motive. Without faith, you will lack courage. Without purpose, you will lack direction. When all three unite, persistence becomes as effortless as breathing. You must also learn to master your emotions, for persistence is impossible in a mind ruled by mood. When enthusiasm fades, discipline must take its place. When hope weakens, habit must hold the line. The man who persists acts not because he feels like it, but because he has decided to do so. The law of cosmic habit force guarantees this. Every act repeated becomes automatic. When you persist daily, your mind forms habits of endurance. Soon, persistence becomes your nature. You will no longer have to force yourself to continue. You will find it harder to stop. I remember a man who came to me broken and poor. He had failed in every venture, not because he was unskilled, but because he quit too soon. I asked him, "How many times have you failed?" He said, "Too many." I told him, "Then fail once more, but this time refuse to quit." He took my advice, started again, and within 2 years built a thriving business. When I asked what changed, he said, "I stopped starting over. I decided to finish." That is the power of persistence. It saves you years by preventing repetition. The man who quits must always begin again. The man who continues moves forward forever. 1 hour of steady persistence achieves what a lifetime of scattered effort cannot. There will be moments when you feel your faith flicker. You will say, "I have tried and nothing happens." That is the precise moment you must continue, for persistence works underground, silently, invisibly. Just as the seed grows unseen before it breaks soil, your progress is forming beyond sight. Many men dig up their seeds by quitting. They say, "It did not work," when in truth it was working perfectly. They simply stopped too soon. You must trust the process. The laws of growth cannot be rushed. Persist, and you will one day see the fruit of every hidden hour. Let me give you a new perspective. Persistence is the proof that you have faith. Words mean little. Endurance is the only true evidence of belief. The man who truly believes never stops moving toward his purpose. He cannot. His desire drives him as surely as the sun drives the day. There is a rhythm to persistence. It is not mere grinding effort, it is intelligent adjustment. You must learn when to push and when to pause, when to advance and when to regroup. The persistent man is not reckless. He is wise. He studies his results, improves his plan, but never abandons his goal. Andrew Carnegie once told me, "I judge a man by his ability to continue after enthusiasm has died." He meant that enthusiasm is the spark, but persistence is the flame. Sparks dazzle for a moment. Flames warm the world. The fire of persistence must be kept alive not by excitement, but by purpose. Say this daily: "I persist beyond all resistance. My fire grows stronger through trial. No defeat can outlast my determination." Speak it when you wake. Speak it when you are weary. Each repetition will strengthen your will. Each affirmation will harden your resolve. The mind obeys the voice it hears most often. Let that voice be your own. The reward of persistence is not only success, but peace. For once you have endured the storm, no future wind can shake you. You will have proven to yourself that you can survive, and from that knowledge comes calm power. The persistent man does not fear failure. He has mastered it. You will notice a change in how others perceive you. They will speak of your steadiness, your reliability. Employers will trust you. Partners will follow you. Even rivals will respect you. For persistence commands a silent authority. It does not shout. It simply endures until the noise of others fades. And when at last you succeed, those who doubted you will call you lucky. They will not see the nights of toil, the mornings of disappointment, the countless times you rose again. They will see only the final triumph. Let them. You will know the truth. Luck is the name given by the weak to the persistence of the strong. Let me offer you a symbol for your meditation. Picture a blacksmith striking an anvil. One blow seems to do nothing. Another leaves no mark. Yet he continues. Then, on the 100th stroke, the metal bends. It was not the final strike that shaped it. It was all that came before. Every blow mattered. Every act counted. So it is with persistence. When you grow tired, remind yourself that each hour brings you nearer. When you doubt, remind yourself that no effort is wasted. When you fear, remind yourself that strength grows only through trial. You cannot be refined without heat. You cannot be strong without resistance. Every defeat carries within it the seed of a greater victory. I have watched this unfold too many times to doubt it. The man who fails nobly and continues faithfully will one day look back and thank the defeats that taught him courage. The persistent man understands that success is not a destination but a direction. He does not ask, "When will I arrive?" He says, "As long as I move forward, I am victorious." Progress is his joy. Endurance is his crown. Therefore, I say to you, when the fire comes, stand firm. When others flee, hold steady. When doubt attacks, persist. For life will not deny a man who refuses to yield. It cannot. The law is on his side. Write this on your heart. He who endures his trial once saves himself from repeating it. Every lesson learned through persistence frees you from that struggle forever. The man who quits must meet the same challenge again and again until he learns endurance. The man who persists passes the test and ascends to the next. So when you face resistance, smile and say, "Here is my test." Meet it with dignity, patience, and unwavering will. Each victory over adversity adds to your fortune in character, in faith, in power. Let persistence become your identity. Let the world know you as the man who never retreats, for in that reputation lies invincible strength. The day will come when even your enemies will say, "He cannot be stopped." And when that day comes, you will have earned not only wealth, but mastery of self. For the true reward of persistence is not what you gain, but what you become. Calm under pressure, faithful under trial, and certain under doubt. So endure your trial of fire with courage. The heat will pass, the gold will remain, and that gold, the strength of soul forged through endurance, will make you rich in every hour of your life. Part 6. The Invisible Circle. No man rises alone. Every success you see in the world is the combined result of visible labor and invisible association. The mind does not live in isolation. It breathes the air of other minds. It feeds on their thoughts. It drinks from their emotions. Whether you know it or not, you are being shaped this very moment by the company you keep, by the ideas you entertain, and by the moral climate you allow around you. I have walked through the offices of the mighty and the homes of the poor, and I have seen this law written upon the walls of every life. The successful are surrounded by order, harmony, and ambition. The unsuccessful are surrounded by confusion, gossip, and complaint. It is not accident, it is vibration. The mind attracts its equal. Thought calls to thought. You cannot escape the influence of your circle. You can only choose it. There is a subtle power in association. Just as a man cannot stand beside a fire without feeling its warmth, he cannot live among great thinkers without catching their vision. Nor can he dwell among the idle without losing his own vigor. You may believe yourself independent, but environment works silently, shaping your habits, dulling or sharpening your mind, raising or lowering your standards. The first step to greatness, therefore, is selection. Selection of your circle, of your influences, of your inner company. For there are two circles that govern a man, the visible circle of companions and the invisible circle of thoughts. The first surrounds his body, the second surrounds his soul. When I began my study of success, I discovered that every truly great man had mastered both. He was selective of his friendships, and he was disciplined in his thinking. He permitted no idle companion in his mind and no negative man in his presence. He understood that success is built in silence, and silence cannot thrive amid noise. I recall a meeting between Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and Harvey Firestone in a quiet woodland camp. They met there not for leisure, but for renewal. They spoke of ideas, of invention, of service. No idle words were wasted. Each man's faith strengthened the other's. In those gatherings, decisions were born that changed the world. Their friendship was a furnace in which thought became power. Ford once told me, "I guard my mind as I guard my factories." He meant that he controlled who entered. He allowed no man to plant seeds of doubt or fear in his consciousness. He said, "A single negative suggestion can corrode more steel than rust." He understood that words are living forces, and that every mind around him was either a builder or a thief of energy. You must come to the same understanding. Every person you meet either adds to your faith or subtracts from it. Every conversation you hold either sharpens your purpose or blunts it. Each environment you enter either nourishes your courage or drains it. Examine your circle, and you will see your future. Ask yourself, who do I speak with most? What thoughts do they awaken in me? Do they talk of progress or of limitation? Do they believe in purpose or in chance? If your answers reveal mediocrity, you must have the courage to withdraw. It is no act of cruelty to leave the company of failure. It is an act of obedience to law. Andrew Carnegie told me he owed his fortune as much to the men around him as to his own mind. He built what he called his cabinet of confidants, a group of loyal thinkers who worked in harmony for a shared vision. He rewarded them richly, not because he was generous alone, but because he understood that harmony multiplies wealth. 100 men in discord are powerless. 10 men in harmony can move the world. This is the mastermind principle, the invisible circle of unity. When 2 or more minds harmonize in a definite purpose, they create a third, greater mind, unseen but real. That unseen mind is the channel through which infinite intelligence operates. I have felt its presence in rooms where great men planned the building of empires. It is a living current that electrifies the air, sharpens thought, and produces ideas no single mind could have conceived. The power of the mastermind is sacred. It must never be used for selfish or destructive ends, for it obeys the same law as faith. It magnifies whatever you place in it. If you unite for greed, you will receive greed's decay. If you unite for service, you will receive the treasures of abundance. You may not yet possess a council of powerful allies, but you can create one in your imagination. I once advised a young man who lacked companions of ambition. He was surrounded by cynics and idlers, yet he longed for inspiration. I told him to form an invisible circle of counselors within his own mind. Each night he imagined himself at a table with Lincoln, Edison, and Carnegie. He asked them questions, listened to their imagined replies, and acted upon their counsel. Within a year, his life transformed. His thoughts gained tone. His confidence grew. His results multiplied. The imagination, when used faithfully, is the meeting place of all great minds. Your invisible circle need not be confined to people. It includes books, ideas, music, and habits. Each carries its own vibration. When you open a book, you invite its author into your consciousness. When you listen to gossip, you permit poison into your bloodstream. When you dwell upon resentment, you dine with failure. Be as careful of what enters your mind as you are of what enters your home. You cannot rise while thinking in the company of small thoughts. Every day, the world invites you to join the conversation of the ordinary, to speak of doubt, to criticize, to complain. Refuse that invitation. Guard your tongue as you guard your treasure, for every idle word drains the power of faith. Speak only of what you wish to multiply. If you wish to know how a man will fare in 10 years, look at his companions today. The dreamer surrounded by skeptics becomes one of them. The worker surrounded by visionaries becomes a leader. Your circle is a prophecy. Change your circle, and you change your destiny. Let me tell you of one such transformation. There was once a clerk I knew, a quiet man with no notable gifts. He worked faithfully, but his associates were men who ridiculed ambition. I warned him, "You will never rise while you walk among men who crawl." He resisted at first, but eventually he changed his environment. He sought mentors who spoke of purpose and studied works that lifted his thought. Within 3 years, he was managing the company that once employed him as a clerk. The only thing he changed was his circle, and that circle changed him. Do not fear loneliness when you leave behind the negative. The space you create will soon be filled with higher companionship. Nature abhors a vacuum. When you remove wrong influences, right ones rush in. The silence between friends of spirit is better than the noise among friends of folly. I once observed how Carnegie dismissed a longtime associate who had become cynical. When I asked why, he said, "A single whisper of doubt in a room of builders is like a drop of acid in a vat of steel. It weakens the whole." He chose harmony over sentiment because he knew that one man's negativity can undo the labor of many. The unseen world is always listening. Every word you speak, every thought you dwell upon, sends out a vibration. These vibrations attract their kind. The man who speaks of failure draws failure. The man who speaks of faith draws success. Thus, your invisible circle extends beyond human company to include the very conditions of your life. Surround yourself, therefore, with symbols of progress. Keep your environment orderly, your desk clear, your dress neat. The subconscious mind draws messages from its surroundings. Clutter confuses it. Order instructs it. Even the colors you live among affect your thought. Choose simplicity and calm, for harmony outside creates harmony within. Do not overlook the influence of sound. Words spoken in your hearing form part of your circle. If you fill your hours with trivial talk or foolish entertainment, you weaken your creative rhythm. But if you fill them with noble words and uplifting thought, you attune your mind to success. I have often said that music of the right kind can prepare the mind for prayer or planning better than silence itself, for it aligns emotion with purpose. Remember always that the company you keep in thought is as real as the company you keep in flesh. I have known men who rose to greatness through imaginary mentors and men who fell through imaginary fears. Both circles were invisible, yet both produced tangible results. The mind makes no distinction between real and imagined influence. It responds only to the emotion attached. Therefore, build your invisible circle consciously. Choose your mental guests with care. Each morning, call to mind the figures who embody what you wish to become. Speak to them as living allies. Ask their counsel. Feel their presence. Whether they lived centuries ago or across the sea, their thought will answer yours in kind. The bridge between souls is thought. Distance cannot break it. This is not superstition. It is science of the spirit. Every idea ever born still vibrates in the ether. When you think with intensity upon a noble mind, you tune your frequency to his, and the same inspiration that once moved him begins to move you. In this way, infinite intelligence uses the imagination as its telephone. Choose also your daily companions with equal care. Seek those who build, not those who belittle. Seek the calm, not the chaotic. Seek those whose presence uplifts your courage. And if you find none, walk alone until you do. The man who walks alone toward purpose is in better company than the crowd that drifts toward nowhere. I have never known a man to rise while bound to weak associations. The strongest wills have fallen to the influence of the small-minded. The cleverest plans have died in the airless chambers of gossip. To rise, you must breathe new air, air charged with faith, ambition, and clarity. Let your conversation be creative. Speak to others not of what is wrong, but of what can be made right. Encourage every soul you meet. Every word of faith you give returns to you tenfold. You cannot uplift another without lifting yourself. You may test this law. Spend 1 week speaking only words of belief and encouragement. Avoid all criticism, complaint, and gossip. You will feel a new strength within you. Doors will open, strangers will smile, and opportunities will seem to multiply. The reason is simple. You have changed your vibration. Your invisible circle has become radiant, and life responds. Say aloud each day, I walk only with those who walk toward purpose. My circle reflects my destiny. My alliances multiply my power. Speak it with conviction until your mind accepts it as fact. You will soon find that those who drain you drift away, and those who inspire you appear. This is not coincidence. It is the silent selection of law. When others see you after you have applied this principle, they will sense something different. They may not name it, but they will feel it. A quiet strength, a purity of focus, an atmosphere of certainty. You will become magnetic, for your circle will radiate harmony. People will be drawn not to your words, but to your vibration. And in time, your invisible circle will extend far beyond your imagination. You will attract minds of equal vision, opportunities in harmony with your purpose, and circumstances that serve your growth. Infinite intelligence, seeing that you have ordered your surroundings, will entrust you with greater power. Choose your circle as kings choose their counsel, by faith, not familiarity. Friendship should be based not on habit, but on harmony. The man who remains surrounded by those who limit him betrays his destiny. Have the courage to select only those influences that strengthen your character and enlarge your faith. You are, this very moment, a reflection of your invisible circle. If you would change your life, begin by changing your associations, both seen and unseen. For when the company around you rises, you rise. When the company within you strengthens, you are made invincible. That is the law of the invisible circle. Part 7. The Law of Immediate Wealth. I have spent my life studying the laws that govern the rise of men. I have seen beggars become builders, clerks become kings, dreamers become giants. I have watched wealth come to men who once had nothing but a mind that refused to quit. And in every case, without exception, the riches began within. Wealth is not coins in a drawer or numbers on a page. It is a state of consciousness. It is the realization that everything you require already exists in the realm of thought, waiting only for your definite command to bring it forth. Poverty begins in the same place. The mind. The poor man thinks limitation, and life confirms it. The rich man thinks abundance, and life obeys. The phrase, rich in 24 hours, does not mean you will awaken tomorrow with gold in your hands. It means that when the mind accepts abundance as its natural state, you are rich already. The wealth will appear outwardly as naturally as dawn follows night. There is a moment in every man's journey when he must decide whether he will think as a beggar or as a creator. The beggar waits for conditions to improve. The creator commands them to obey. The beggar pleads for a miracle. The creator acts as the miracle itself. The beggar looks at time and says, someday. The creator says, now. When Frank Gonzalez declared that he would have his $1 million within a week, he became rich the moment he spoke. Not because the money was in his hand, but because his mind had crossed the line between dream and command. The money was only the shadow cast by that decision. Every man holds this same power, the ability to cross the invisible line between want and possession, between fear and faith, between delay and immediacy. Most never cross it because they do not understand that the mind is the only real bank. The treasures of heaven and earth are stored within it, and faith is the key that opens the vault. The law of immediate wealth declares, the moment a man becomes definite, he is rich. Definite in purpose, definite in faith, definite in action. There is no poverty in a definite mind. There is only the unfolding of riches already earned through clarity and courage. I have seen this transformation many times. A man comes to me in despair, crushed by debt and doubt. I ask him, what do you desire? He hesitates. I ask again. He fumbles for words. I tell him, until you can name your desire, you cannot own it. A week later, he returns with a plan, a tone in his voice that was not there before. He is no longer begging life. He is commanding it. From that moment, his fortune begins. Infinite intelligence cannot deliver to the uncertain. It requires a clear order. The universe is not a merchant of chance. It is a storehouse of law. You must tell it what you want, believe that you deserve it, and act as though you have already received it. Do not mistake this for empty confidence. It is the confidence of harmony with law. The man who acts as though he already possesses wealth is not pretending. He is aligning with truth. For thought is cause, and every cause produces its effect. The visible world is only the echo of invisible decisions. The poor man says, I will begin when I have resources. The rich man says, I will begin now, and resources will come. The poor man saves his energy for opportunity. The rich man spends his energy to create it. The poor man guards what little he has. The rich man multiplies it through motion. One lives by chance, the other by law. The richest men I have known were rich long before they touched money. Carnegie was rich in imagination when he was a messenger boy. Rockefeller was rich in vision when he carried ledgers. Ford was rich in determination when he worked in a dim factory. Their wealth began as an inward certainty, a peace that said, I am destined to serve through greatness. This peace is the signature of true riches. The man who possesses it no longer hurries or fears. He knows that his fortune is already being shaped by his faith. He may still labor, but his labor is joyful, because he understands that effort guided by definiteness always pays its wage. There is a calm assurance that surrounds the man who lives by this law. He no longer speaks of trying, he says, I will. He no longer asks, if, he says, when. This quiet decisiveness is the language of wealth. Life hears it and responds. There is a story I often recall. A young architect once came to me, disheartened that his designs had been rejected by every client. He was living in a single room, eating little, working endlessly. I asked him, do you believe you can be a master of your craft? He said, I hope so. I told him, hope is poverty. Decide and act as if you already are. He took those words literally. He rose early the next morning, dressed as though meeting kings, walked to the grandest building in his city, and imagined himself presenting his work there. His energy changed. Within a month, he was hired to design a major project. Within a year, his name was known. His outer wealth followed his inner elevation. This is how wealth arrives, not by wish, but by identification. You must identify yourself with abundance. Think as the rich think, speak as they speak, plan as they plan, walk as they walk. Do not imitate their extravagance. Imitate their definiteness. Do not envy their fortune. Emulate their faith. To be rich is not to possess gold, it is to possess certainty. When you believe that you are the channel through which infinite intelligence expresses abundance, you can never lack. The same power that moves suns and seasons flows through you. You are its steward. This truth changes your relationship with time. The man of poverty looks to the future for wealth. The man of richness draws wealth into the present. He says, I am rich now, for I think richly, speak richly, and give richly. His thought magnetizes resources to his hand. When I speak of 24 hours, I mean the sacred period in which a man can transform himself through decision. One day is enough to break the habits of drift, to silence doubt, to begin anew. Time is not the measure of change. Decision is. A single act of clarity can redeem years of confusion. I once knew a merchant who lost everything through mismanagement. His friends pitied him. His creditors pursued him, but he refused despair. He said to me, Mr. Hill, I am not poor. I am rich in knowledge. I have learned how not to fail. He began again, smaller but wiser, and in 5 years surpassed his former success. He told me, I was never poor. I was only learning the price of wealth. True riches are never taken from a man who has found their source. The man who loses money but keeps faith is still wealthy. The man who gains money but loses faith is bankrupt. For faith, when definite, reproduces its own substance. If you desire to live by the law of immediate wealth, begin by mastering your thought of ownership. Speak as though you possess what you seek. Walk as though you command it. Give thanks for it before it arrives. This is not pretense, it is participation in law. Gratitude is faith expressed. Say to yourself each morning, I am rich in thought, rich in faith, rich in action. Wealth obeys my purpose. I have already crossed the line between dream and command. Speak it slowly, with conviction. Feel it until it vibrates through every nerve. When you begin your day with such belief, you will find your actions guided, your courage steady, your opportunities multiplied. Wealth also carries responsibility. To receive abundantly is to give abundantly. The universe does not reward greed. It rewards circulation. Money, like water, must flow. Hold it too tightly and it stagnates. Use it wisely and it renews itself. The rich man who hoards becomes poor in spirit. The giver multiplies both his joy and his fortune. Carnegie once told me that he gave away his wealth because he could not sleep knowing others lacked opportunity. He understood that giving completes the circle of prosperity. The same law that multiplies thought multiplies generosity. What you give in faith returns in multiplied form. The man of immediate wealth is generous not because he has much, but because he is much. He sees himself as an agent of abundance. He gives ideas, encouragement, time, and kindness freely, knowing that nothing he sends forth is lost. Each act returns, clothed in increase. There is a spiritual nobility in this state of mind. The rich man in consciousness is calm, patient, and fearless. He does not boast of wealth nor complain of poverty. He walks in harmony with the invisible law, knowing that all things come when they are due. Do not wait for the world to recognize your value. Recognize it yourself. The world mirrors your conviction. If you see yourself as poor, the world agrees. If you see yourself as chosen, the world opens its gates. Life is a mirror. It reflects not your wish, but your belief. I have seen this law change the countenance of men. The moment they accept abundance as their right, their eyes brighten, their posture lifts, their speech gains tone. They no longer beg life, they instruct it. Others sense their confidence and offer them opportunity. It appears as coincidence, but it is obedience of law. Wealth obeys definiteness. The universe loves order, and order is the shape of faith. When your thoughts, words, and actions move in one direction, wealth cannot resist you. Confusion repels riches as surely as clarity attracts them. The man who says, "I will be rich," but acts like the poor, confuses law. The man who says, "I am rich," and acts with faith, aligns with order. The first waits for proof. The second creates it. Understand this eternal principle. You do not chase wealth. You allow it to assemble around your definiteness. You attract by becoming the vibration of what you desire. Faith is the magnet. Definiteness is its pole. Do not look for miracles. Expect them. For the man of faith, every act of law is a miracle. Every door that opens, every stranger who helps, every idea that arrives on time, all are the universe paying its debt to definiteness. When others ask you the secret of your success, tell them, "I live as though I have only one day to fulfill my purpose, and all eternity rushes to help me." That is the spirit of immediate wealth, to act each day as though destiny depends upon this hour, to give your whole heart to your purpose, to waste not a single thought on fear. There is peace in this urgency. The man who acts as though time were short finds time abundant. The man who moves with faith never hurries. He is swift but not anxious, decisive but not rash. He trusts that every moment contains enough power to change his fortune. When you reach this understanding, your relationship with life becomes sacred. You cease to fight against circumstance, you work with it. You see opportunity in delay, wisdom in defeat, purpose in every encounter. You no longer chase wealth, you become wealth. And so I tell you this final truth. When you act as though you have but one day to fulfill your purpose, you enter eternity within the hour. You are no longer bound by time, you are guided by law. The riches of the world become servants to your faith. You have learned the sequence of creation: thought, faith, decision, action, persistence, harmony, and peace. These are the 7 pillars of immediate wealth. Live by them and you will never lack. Remember, wealth is not granted. It is recognized. It does not come from without. It awakens from within. The riches you seek are waiting in the chambers of your mind, longing to be released by your belief. Say it now, and say it until you believe. I am rich in thought. I am rich in faith. I am rich in action. I live by law, not by chance. Wealth obeys my purpose, and my purpose is divine. Hold to this as your final command, and the world will soon reflect your words in every form of abundance. When that day arrives, and it will, you will understand what I mean when I say, the man who decides to be rich in mind today is already rich in truth, for the law of immediate wealth begins not in gold, but in decision, and ends not in possession, but in peace,